Something about the town felt wrong the moment Ethan Cole crossed its rusted welcome sign, the kind that looked older than the road itself. The air was too still, the people too quiet, and the streets too perfectly clean for a place that didn't exist on any map. His GPS froze the moment he arrived, stuck on a blank screen, refusing to load coordinates. He had come searching for a missing hiker, but instead found a place frozen in time, as if the world forgot it existed. The locals stared at him with expressions that weren't unfriendly, just unsettling, like they knew him, like they had been expecting him. When he checked in at the only motel, the receptionist smiled too long and whispered, "You're staying one night, right?" That night, someone slipped a note under his door with shaking handwriting, "Leave before they erase you too." Ethan's heart pounded as he looked out his window and saw the same man who'd warned him standing perfectly still across the street, watching his room. The town's lights flickered at midnight, and in that brief moment of darkness, Ethan felt something move in the hallway, something slow, deliberate, and not walking like a person. Ethan tried to call for help in the morning, but no phone in the entire town worked. Every attempt, cell, landline, even a payphone, ended with the same robotic message repeating endlessly, "No connection." When he asked the sheriff about the missing hiker, the man smiled like he was tired of pretending. "No one goes missing here," he said, but his eyes told a different story. Later, Ethan noticed a door at the back of the station the sheriff wouldn't let anyone near. That evening, when the sheriff left to patrol, Ethan sneaked inside and forced the lock. What he found made his blood run cold. The room was filled with hundreds of items: wallets, purses, backpacks, IDs, belonging to strangers from all over the country. He recognized the missing hiker's driver's license lying in a dusty tray. Cameras filled with pictures of confused tourists in the town lay piled in crates. Every single one of them ended abruptly, like the moment the photographer vanished. When Ethan confronted the sheriff, the man didn't deny a thing. He simply said, "Once you're here, you don't leave. The town keeps what it needs." Then he locked the station doors behind Ethan and whispered, "You're staying." Ignoring every warning he'd received, Ethan ventured into the thick woods surrounding the town, determined to uncover what was being hidden. The forest felt unnatural, too silent, too dense, with trees marked by strange carved symbols, as if someone, or something, used them to communicate. As he walked deeper, he felt watched, not by animals but by an unseen presence that moved quietly, almost intelligently. Hours in, he stumbled upon rusty metal fencing buried beneath moss, stretched across the forest like a forgotten cage. A faded sign warned, "U.S. government property, do not enter." Behind the broken fence was a partially opened bunker door, cold air seeping out as if the inside had been sealed for decades. Ethan pushed it open and descended the metal steps into darkness. Inside were dust, covered folders, yellowed documents, and reels of old film. He wiped off a file labeled Project Safe House. The papers hinted at classified Cold War experiments testing psychological manipulation on isolated communities. Before he could read more, the bunker door loudly slammed shut above him. His flashlight flickered, and he knew he wasn't alone. Something had followed him inside, something breathing quietly in the dark. Ethan's hands shook as he backed away from the shadow moving in the bunker. He managed to wedge the door open with a broken metal rod and escape into the daylight, gasping. Suddenly, all the clues made sense. The documents revealed that decades ago, the government created a town designed to be untraceable. No electronic signal, no map references, no recorded existence. Residents were part of an experiment testing long-term isolation and psychological conditioning, but something went wrong. The project was abandoned, the town left to die, yet the people stayed. They had been conditioned so deeply that their minds rejected the outside world. Worse, the remaining descendants continued the experiment on their own terms, eliminating anyone who threatened their secrecy. Ethan realized the townspeople weren't just hiding, they were protecting their way of life. He remembered the strange smiles, the identical stares, the way they all seemed to anticipate his actions. They had been trained, generation after generation, to ensure no outsider ever left. As he processed this horrifying truth, he saw children drawing symbols from the trees in chalk along the sidewalks. They looked up at Ethan and whispered, "You're part of us now." And their parents watched silently from porches. That night, Mara, a woman who had been quietly observing Ethan since he arrived, approached him behind the motel. Her voice trembled as she confessed she was born in the town, but desperately wanted to escape. She explained that every outsider was forced to undergo conversion, a hypnotic conditioning ritual performed deep in the forest. The missing hiker resisted, and the townspeople removed him, just as they had done to dozens before him. Mara showed Ethan a hidden path into the woods, leading to a clearing where strange stones were arranged in a perfect circle, each marked with the same symbols carved on the trees. She admitted she had never attempted escape because everyone who tried was caught, their minds broken and rewritten. The townspeople believed outsiders were dangerous, potential threats who could expose them. Ethan recorded Mara's confession on his phone, determined to get it out. But as they returned to town, torches lit up behind them. Shadows moved between houses, closing in. The townspeople whispered in unison, "No one leaves the last place on the map." Mara grabbed Ethan's hand and pulled him into the darkness as footsteps thundered behind them. Ethan and Mara sprinted toward the only road leading out of the town, hearts pounding, chased by shadows carrying lanterns. They reached Ethan's car, slammed the doors, and sped down the winding road. For hours they drove through dense forest until the trees finally cleared, revealing the same rusted welcome sign they had passed earlier that evening. They had looped back. Confused and terrified, Ethan kept driving, pushing the car faster, but every route led them back to the town's entrance, as if the forest itself was reshaping around them. Mara trembled, admitting she had heard rumors of a maze surrounding the town, built during the experiment to prevent escape attempts. The roads were designed to distort direction, distance, and perception. Compasses spun uselessly, and GPS devices failed. Ethan stopped the car and stepped out, screaming into the night. The forest stared back in silence. When he checked the time, hours had passed, but his watch insisted only minutes had gone by. Mara whispered, "We're trapped inside their design. No one who lives here can even imagine the way out." And as they stood by the car, townspeople emerged from the trees, silently forming a circle around them. Back in the bunker earlier, Ethan vaguely remembered notes describing a sensory trick. The labyrinth could only be bypassed by ignoring all visual information. The brain, misled by the town's engineered layout, would always guide travelers back, but sound, pure sound, could break the illusion. Ethan found an old radio in the motel, tuned it until it picked up a faint signal pulsing at a repeating frequency. Mara recognized it as coming from an old radio tower outside the perimeter, long abandoned but never fully shut down. Their only hope was to drive blindfolded, steering solely by the changing volume of that static signal. With the townspeople chasing them, they raced to the car. Ethan covered the windshield completely while Mara held the radio, shouting directions based on the signal's strength. They sped into the forest as torches appeared behind them, bullets cracking through branches. The car jolted violently over uneven ground, every bump threatening to flip it. The radio faded, then strengthened, guiding them like a heartbeat in the darkness. A loud crash shattered the rear window. Someone screamed, someone bled, and in the chaos, only one of them kept listening to the fading pulse leading toward freedom. The survivor staggered onto a highway just after dawn, clothes torn, face pale, clutching the old radio still faintly humming with static. A passing truck screeched to a stop, and emergency services swarmed minutes later. When the survivor gave the coordinates of the town, federal agents launched an immediate search. But when they reached the location, they found nothing: no houses, no signs, no structures, not even the rusted welcome sign. Satellite images showed unbroken forest stretching endlessly, with no evidence a town had ever stood there. The agents dismissed the survivor's story as trauma-induced hallucination, claiming the entire area had been untouched for decades. But the survivor knew the truth. They saw the symbols carved faintly on trees near the highway. They felt eyes watching from the deeper woods. And they knew the town was still there, hidden the same way it always had been, somewhere between reality and memory, always shifting, always concealed. The last place on the map wasn't gone. It had simply moved, waiting for its next visitor, ready to swallow them whole and erase them completely, just as it had done to everyone before.